morning, everybody. So, Ms. LaCroix and I are going to do a presentation today on ESE sensitivities. So we're going to talk about different eligibilities that we have when it comes to an individualized education plan. We're also going to talk about what accommodations may look like. We're going to do a couple activities where we read you a profile, and you're going to let us know which eligibility that may be. And then we also will do a Kahoot. And we're going to also do some type of writing where you're going to be writing with your non-dominant hand, but in a timed manner to see how that makes you feel within the classroom. So the purpose and goals today is we're going to build awareness and empathy for students with exceptionalities, promote inclusive, respectful interactions, provide practical strategies for classroom and school-wide support, and foster a culture where differences are celebrated, not tolerated.
Alright, so understanding ESE. ESE supports students with disabilities under IDEA, and then some of the common exceptionalities we use in Broward are ASD for autism spectrum disorder, SLD specific learning disability, EBD emotional or behavioral disability, we have speech and language impairment, intellectual disabilities, and then OHI, which are other health impairments, things like ADHD, and then we also have gifted education.
Also to tie in other health impairments, sometimes other health impairments will include the ADHD, but it also can include a genetic syndrome. It can include a medical disorder. It can vary across the board if it impacts them educationally, but it's a medical concern. So here's some myths versus reality. So myth 1, students with ESE disabilities can't learn like other students. The reality, students with ESE disabilities can learn, but they may need different strategies, supports, or pacing. Many thrive with individualized instruction and accommodations. Myth 2, ESE is only for students with intellectual disabilities. ESE includes a wide range of disabilities such as SLD, specific learning disability, and emotional behavioral disabilities, also known as EBD, autism spectrum, speech and language impairments, other health impairments. Myth 3, inclusion classrooms lower academic standards, but in reality, inclusion promotes equity, not lowered expectations. With proper support, students with disabilities can meet high academic standards. And the last myth, behavioral issues mean a student is just acting out. In reality, behavior can be a form of communication, especially for students with emotional or developmental disabilities. Understanding the root cause is key.
Alright, we have additional myths. Behavioral issues mean a student is just, we just did that one. Accommodations give students an unfair advantage, but really accommodations level the playing field. They provide access, not advantage, similar to how a ramp helps someone in a wheelchair enter a building. ESE students will always need support, but really many of these students develop independence and self-advocacy skills over time. Some may no longer need services as they grow up, and disabilities are always visible. But many disabilities are invisible, such as dyslexia, ADHD, or anxiety disorders. They lack of visible signs doesn't mean a student isn't struggling.
So language matters. Use people first language. When you are referring to a student with a disability, we typically don't say the autistic child. It's always the student with autism, the student with a learning disability, the student with a language impairment. Always just keep that language in your head when you're talking about a student with a disability. Avoid labeling or defining a student solely by their disability. Speak directly to the student. Every student is different with a disability. That is why it's called an individualized education plan. One student with a learning disability and another student with a learning disability may be two totally different personalities, may learn two totally different ways. So you really have to learn your student and talk to your student to see what will help them. Some of the examples are the autistic kid can't sit still. That's not how we want to label a student. We would say, John, a student with autism benefits from movement breaks. Any questions on the language?
Alright, and barriers students face. So there are 4 different types of barriers. You have physical, so mobility, sensory, or vision hearing challenges. Academic, processing, comprehension, or executive functioning. Social emotional, so peer acceptance, anxiety, and self-esteem. And then you have behavioral challenges, barriers, communication differences, and sensory triggers. So it's important to be aware of any barriers your students may face so that you can help them overcome those barriers and still integrate in your classroom.
So some strategies for inclusion in the classroom. You want to make sure you have clear routines, a multi-sensory instruction, which can include some kids learn with manipulative, some kids need visuals, some kids need auditory, they're all different, so that multi-sensory approach will reach them. Positive supports, flexible seating, communication tips, allow processing time. Sometimes when you ask a kid a question, they're going to need a few minutes to understand what you just asked of them, because a lot of our students with a language impairment, they're not able to follow 2 to 3 step directions. So if you're saying 4 things to them, you've lost them at the first sentence. So sometimes it takes them processing time in order to understand what you're saying. Use visuals in plain language. Make it simple. Give them a visual if they're not understanding. Collaborate with your ESE staff. You have your ESE support facilitators. You have your speech and language pathologists. Everyone can provide you resources to reach these students within the classroom. Social inclusion. Make sure you have intentional groupings. You may have a student who you know may not be social, but you have a student in your classroom who is very social, very outgoing. Put them together for a peer group, because sometimes those kids can get them to interact with each other. And then teach empathy. You want to have empathy for these kids, because these kids get frustrated just like you get frustrated. And if you understand them, they may understand you, and then it will work in everybody's benefit.
Alright, so accommodations versus modifications. We have a scenario. So a 5th grade student is reading a passage in your class, but that student's not able to read on grade level. So a modification would be giving that student a 2nd grade reading passage that matches their reading level, but really you're changing what that student's expected to learn. Versus an accommodation, which would be providing text-to-speech for that 5th grade passage, so it changes how the student accesses the content or demonstrates learning. So our job isn't to modify the curriculum, our job is to accommodate so that every student can access their grade level curriculum. So really the key idea is that modifications are what the student learns versus accommodations, which are how the student learns. So we have questions on this slide. No? Okay.
De-escalation and crisis awareness. Recognize the distress, the tone, the pacing, the fidget. A lot of times you can pick up on these kids' behaviors before it escalates into something. If you know the student doesn't like writing, you're most likely going to have some type of behavior when you bring out a writing example. So beforehand, give them an example. First writing, then this. Or first you write 4 sentences, then you get a 5-minute break. So try to learn the student before you present something to them. Or notice, if you notice they're fidgeting, they're kicking their feet, they're getting up, they're moving around, talk to them. What's wrong? Do you need a break? So forth. That way you can de-escalate it before it becomes to the point where you no longer have their attention and you're frustrated, they're frustrated, and most likely they end up with some type of intervention that you call to the classroom. Keep your calm tone and open body language. These kids will feed off of every little thing that you do. If they see you're stressed, they're going to stress too. A lot of times, if you're calm and you can ignore behaviors and you know the student well enough, oftentimes they'll be calm too, and you'll be able to de-escalate it in a fast fashion. Offer choices for control. A lot of our kids, we do have reinforcer checklists that you can always come and ask us for. If you want to know a student, what they like, what they want to do, you sit down, we interview them, and they're able to tell us exactly what they like, so that when you're in the classroom, you can use that to your advantage. If you do this, then you're going to get this for the reward. Follow the school crisis protocols. Ideally, when it comes to a behavior, the person who should be dealing with the behavior is the teacher in the classroom, as you want the student to respect you. If oftentimes outside support is called and the student builds a rapport with us, a lot of times these kids are going to misbehave to the point where they want us to come because they want us to be there. Oftentimes, if you're in a room and teacher's willing to deal with the behavior, we'll take over your classroom. You work with the student, get them to calm down, that way they build that relationship with you. So when they are at crisis, they're comfortable with you and they're able to calm down. Some of the tips, prevention and calm communication are key. Remaining calm is one of the biggest things. Any questions on de-escalation?
Okay, some key takeaways: every student can learn, you just have to find how they learn best. Respect and empathy is greater than having sympathy for the child. Inclusion benefits all students, and small actions can create big impacts.
So next is kind of like a reflection and discussion. So we're gonna ask some of you if you wanna raise your hand. How can you apply these strategies in your classroom? Anybody? No? Somebody's gotta have in their classroom where they have a student who's challenging. What do you offer them when they're trying to do something? First and more.
There's a visual on his desk, like whenever like he needs to be reminded, look at your visual at the top of the desk and say, you know, go over your expectations
Right.
in the morning, like a whole morning
It provides that
routine.
clear routine.
It was a challenge, and now we have a checklist, that works really well.
Ms. Gross, did you raise your hand?
Yes, sometimes some of the students get confused when it's not Fun Friday and it's Fun Friday. So I make sure I let them know it's Fun Friday, and if I know that they're just having a bad day, I say, okay, let's first check out, and then you guys provided a sensory basket. I can leave that out all the time, but maybe I let the child go to the back and just choose one thing the last 5 minutes. But I could tell when they come to the door, what type of day they're having so far.
Ms. Lai?
If they appear to be frustrated, provide the content for them in smaller chunks so they feel like they're being successful.
What myths have you encountered and how do you address them?
Can you repeat the question? I couldn't hear you.
What myths have you encountered and how do you address them?
The myth that, if they have a disability that they can't achieve. I've seen that they can really achieve, they just, need extra, praise sometimes to continue.
Sure. Just like with our ESE students, they may not necessarily be on grade level. These students may always be a year or two behind, but you have to keep in mind, they're able to make a learning gain. These kids, like, if you close those individual gaps, when they work on those skills, an ESE learning gain is one of the, I would have to say, if you truly work with them, one of the easiest things to achieve. Because if they learn a new skill, they're going to maintain it. So they all can learn. They may not always be on grade level, but they do have the ability to move up in the skills that they master. I'm gonna also say another myth that happens often is when you have an ESE student who is coming to you next year, and you've heard everything that the previous teacher has said. So you automatically have in your head, this student's not gonna be good, this student's not gonna listen to me, this student's not gonna this, whatever. Always keep in mind, a student is going to respond differently to every individual. So if you go in with the notion that this student's not gonna listen to me or whatever, they're reading your body language. You've already lost them. So it's very important to remember, just because one person said something, doesn't mean it's true. So give them that fair chance when you have them, when you move on to the next grade level. And what barriers do your students face and how can you support them? I know you all have barriers in your classroom, so do you have any examples on how you support them, the kids with the barriers?
Well, for me in math, the kids that are like a couple grade levels behind, there's just gonna be 4th grade math stuff that they're not ready for. But there's always some 4th grade, concepts that they are ready for and that they can master. So I've learned to help them with those, like identify the things that I know they're ready to master and focus on that first, and then keep moving forward with them.
Like a good example with that is like 4th grade long division. Long division is a multi-step process, a lot of our students struggle with that. But if you work with your students on mastering the skill of the multiplication in the division, once they get that step, you're going to see that they've mastered this skill, then you'll move on to the next. And sometimes with that, you can look at this grade and you can take that division problem and take the grade of they've mastered this multiplication skill and they got a 90% every time I'm giving it to them, so then you know you're ready to move on to the next step of long division. Any other questions for them? We'll do the eligibility identification first. Okay. So this one we are going to read profiles. We have all the eligibilities up here. They're numbered 1 through 7. So after you read this profile, we want everyone to kind of put their hand up on which eligibility you think this student profile represents. I'm gonna read it. Ella is curious and enjoys science experiments and class discussion. She reads slowly and often loses her place during independent reading. Though she can answer comprehension questions orally, timed tasks make her anxious and she benefits from visuals and graphic organizers. She works hard to decode but struggles to retain what she's read. What eligibility do you think Ella has? I'm gonna have everybody put their number up.
Can you read?
I don't think
Yeah.
Alright.
SLD is 1, EBD emotional behavioral disability is 2, a speech impairment is 3, other health impairment, OHI is 4, an intellectual disability is 5, autism spectrum disorder is 6, and a language impairment is 7. Yes.
Good job. Ella has a learning disability.
Alright, so Sophia is in grade 3. Sophia is highly verbal and excels in math and science. She struggles with figurative language and group work due to preference for predictable interactions. She becomes upset with sudden schedule changes. Social stories and visual schedules help her navigate transitions. What eligibility do you think Sophia has?
Number six, box number 6.
See the little
Six
questions
is-
down at the bottom?
Is A and D.
Wait, I'm sorry, it's bigger.
He's number 1.
Number 1,
So
okay.
we have lots of 6. So she does have autism spectrum disorder.
Yeah.
So scenario 3, Marcus, he's in grade 5. Marcus is outgoing and intelligent, but gets frustrated when corrected. He may argue or leave class when upset. Praise, clear boundaries, and calm redirection help him stay focused. He enjoys art and sports and shows leadership when engaged. What eligibility do you think Marcus has? I see some 2s.
What was 2 again?
Emotional behavioral disability. Does everybody agree on 2? Yes, he has an emotional behavioral disability. We're gonna read a couple more scenarios, they're not on this side. Oh, there's one more, just kidding.
Alright, Aiden's in grade 2. Aiden is cheerful and eager to help. He learns best with repetition and hands-on tasks. He sometimes forgets multi-step directions, but completes tasks successfully with modeling and visuals.
OHI.
OHI, 4. Anybody else? It's not number 4. Not 7. Language impairment. Ms. Yarmish, you're correct.
Job, Miss Diarmas.
It is an intellectual disability. So we're gonna read a couple more. Leo is in grade 4. Leo speaks in complete sentences but struggles with complex directions and new vocabulary. He performs well in hands-on lessons. Visuals and repeated explanations enhance his comprehension. What disability is that? See lots of sevens. 7 is correct, it is language impairment.
Alright, Luna is in grade 3. She enjoys reading aloud but occasionally repeats syllables when nervous. She avoids oral presentations in front of the class. Supportive peers and predictable routines help her feel confident.
See lots of 3s. Yes, that is a speech impairment. Before I move on to the next one, can someone tell me the main difference between a language impairment and a speech impairment? Because they are often confused. Like, oh, they're going to speech. No, they're not going to speech. They're going to language. Anybody know the difference?
Exactly, like being able to communicate, lack of vocabulary, and speech is more pronunciation, more physical.
Correct. A little bit? Yes? Yes. Remember, Ms. Campbell, you can chime in too, like the language impairment, it's the grammar, it's following directions, it's, do you want to elaborate, like?
Yeah, it can be vocabulary, it can be figurative language, it can be comprehension, and then speech impairment could also include fluency too, so also keep that in mind. It can be fluency, so if the child has a stutter, if they have a voice disorder, that would also fall under speech impairment, and the way that they make their sounds as well.
Just remember that next time you said my kids are going to speech. No, they're going to language. We have 2 more. No, 1 more. Mia is in grade 3. Mia is bright, talkative, and enjoys hand-on learning activities. She has difficulty maintaining attention during quiet work and may forget materials or instructions. Her stamina varies throughout the day, and she benefits from short work periods, fidget tools, and opportunities to stand or move. What eligibility? 4s. Yes, that is another health impairment. No, we'll do Kahoot. So we're gonna do Kahoot. So if one person from your table can join our Kahoot. The Kahoot's gonna be on accommodations. So we're gonna put what the accommodation is at the top, and you have to choose the correct answer on the bottom. What would represent that accommodation in the classroom? Yeah, you have to, just one from your table to join. Marcy, do you want to read it? Marcy, do you need the pen or you got it? Thank you. All there.
Is it Kahoot.com?
Good job,
Guess who?
Just one person, right?
Do we have everybody? Everybody ready?
Ready?
Alright, I'm just gonna preface this by saying some of the answer choices may sound a little odd. We were running out of characters in the answers, but you'll get the point. Alright, so which of these shows what preferential seating would look like in the classroom? The red one says the student is given 30 extra minutes to complete a test. Yellow, student completes half the number of math problems as the rest of the class. Blue, the student sits near the front of of the classroom away from distractions. And green, the student is allowed to take a short break after every 15 minutes of work. Nice job. Can we read it? They all got it. Or just the reader.
The traditional time for tasks. Red is teacher shortens the prompt to reduce the amount of work. Student is allowed to continue working on an assignment during reading time. Blue, the student is given a visual checklist for each step of the task. And green, the teacher reads directions aloud to the student.
That was me, the green, by mistake.
Alright, reduced assignments, red, the student does 10 math problems instead of 20 that address the same skill. Yellow, the student is seated in the front of the room away from distractions. Blue, the student uses a skills-to-text program to write an essay. Or green, the student's allowed to take a short break after every 15 minutes.
Visual supports. Red, the student takes the test in a small group setting with fewer distractions. Yellow, the teacher provides a daily picture schedule with icons for each subject. Blue, the student is allowed to take short breaks during long tasks. Or green, the teacher repeats verbal directions one-on-one with the student.
Extended time. Red, teacher lets the student begin tests 15 minutes earlier and finish 15 minutes later. Yellow, teacher shortens assignments by removing complex items that can frustrate. Blue, student is given fewer test questions to reduce mental load during the test. Or green, student is near the teacher to get feedback and redirection during tests.
That was easy. I didn't listen to my teammates.
Check for understanding. Red, teacher provides a visual schedule outlining each step of the assignment. Yellow, teacher shortens assignment by removing complex items that can frustrate. Blue, student is tested in a separate room to minimize environmental distractions. Or green, after giving directions, teacher asks the student to explain the steps back. Good job.
And the last one is frequent breaks. Red, the student is seated near peers who model on-task behavior. Yellow, teacher shortens assignment by removing complex items that can frustrate. Blue, student is tested in a separate room to minimize environmental distractions. And green, teacher lets the student use a calm down area after finishing assignment.
Any questions on accommodations?
What was the last one? I guess.
It was that you went to a calm down area after the assignment.
Stuff, we're very special. And ESE. Alright, we have one more task for you. We're gonna play a video. What we're gonna do is it's gonna ask you to write a sentence. But you have to use your non-dominant hand to write the sentence. It's also gonna time you when you're writing. If you need preferential seating and move closer to the board, you can move up. Preferential seating. pen today? You can use a pen. So if you make a mistake, Karen. All right, remember your non-dominant hand.
Ever wonder what it's like to have a learning disability? Try this exercise. Pause the video, then get a sheet of paper and a pen and prepare to write. Which hand do you write with? Use the other one to copy this sentence. The moon shone brightly through the window and cast light on all of the various objects the old woman had collected throughout her life.
With your non-dominant hand. And your time. You have 30 seconds left. And make sure you're staying in the line. And you're following grammar rules for writing a sentence.
Now do it in cursive.
I don't even write with my dominant.
Can I switch hands?
No.
Student is supposed to.
There you go. 10 more seconds. All right, sentence is done.
Stop. Time's up. Turn your paper over so you can't read it. Do you remember the sentence you copied? How did you feel while you were writing? How does your hand feel? Now on the back, take a minute to write a descriptive sentence, using at least 2 adjectives.
So I noticed a lot of input when you guys are doing that. I need a break. My hand hurts. My hand's cramping. I need this. I need that. So keep that in mind when you have your student in your classroom who has a learning disability, may struggle with writing, may struggle with that. Even though they're using their dominant hand, it's difficult for them. Very difficult for them. So keep that in mind. Have them write a sentence. You can take a little minute break. So it's important to hear that. I like that I heard those comments because then I really want you to keep that in mind when you're working with these students within the classroom, how frustrating it can be for them. Okay.
Oh, you wanted them
Hold on, there's one more. Gina just closed it.
Ever wonder what it's like to have a picture describe the view out your bedroom window?
2 sentences describing your view out your window. Non-dominant hand. Yep.
It doesn't say right sentence.
What, yes, it did at the beginning. You missed those directions. And you almost have 30 seconds left. Roxy needs a pencil. 10 seconds left.
Use at least 2 I can describe.
She said, Bobby's on a roll. Hodge is on a roll. Done.
Stop. Time's up. What do you think of your sentence? What problems appear in your writing? What grade would you give yourself based on your work? This is the kind of struggle fleeing regular U.S. children face in school every day.
When you have a learning disability, doing the same schoolwork as the other kids can be much harder. Kids with learning disabilities need our understanding and our support. Will you lend a hand?
So next time your student's struggling with writing, you're requiring them to write those sentences with the adjectives, describe this, or whatever else, and you're putting that time frame on them. How many of you did not finish that within that minute? It's very difficult for them. So keep that in mind next time you're giving them an assignment, not necessarily writing, it could be for anything. They just need that extra help or that extra support. That is it for us, unless you guys have any other questions in regards to anything that we presented. Yes.
Just to reinforce, like, you're saying you want to give them all these accommodations and give them more time, or let them take a break, and all of these things is what they need, but on the other side, you've just been told that you have this many minutes to complete this, and we gotta move on to math, because now we gotta switch class to the, so they gotta always feel for every step forward, they take 2 steps back.
Right. And they might require that extra time or extra processing time, and with our kids, we just have to be a little bit more aware of that, and that's where, Gina and Ashley will be able to provide support within the classroom of something that may help them finish it in a